My name is Aston Smith and I am 11 years old. I have autism and ADHD, which I call my superpower, because without them, I would have not been able to write and publish 2 books. My first one was written when I was 8, and the second was published when I was 10, on World Book Day, which was in March. I turned 11 in April. My autism is my superpower because it helps me to have a creative mind and think differently. My ADHD makes it harder to do, but I did it. I'm here to tell you about my journey as an author with ASD and ADHD. I wrote my first book, The Solar System, during lockdown when I was 8. I was bored and had so many facts about space in my brain that my mum and dad suggested that I write them all down. You don't have to use the microphone.
You alright? I'm redundant.
It took me a while because it hurt my fingers to handwrite and I couldn't type very fast on the computer. I also love to draw, so I created drawings of the planets, like these ones here. My dad is a graphic designer, and after I had written all my facts down, he said that he could lay them all out in a book and get them printed for my friends and family. I thought this was an awesome idea, but Mum and Dad said that we needed to check my facts to make sure they were right. It was important to make sure they were correct. I visited the NASA website to fact check. I'd got a few facts slightly wrong, so I had to correct them. One of the difficult things is that there are always new discoveries by astronomers, like how many moons Jupiter has. They're always discovering more. Sadly, printed books can only be correct at the time of being published. Once we were happy that the facts were right, my dad finished laying out the book. Mum and Dad decided to get 30 printed and sell them for £5 to friends and family. After printing costs, I got to keep the rest of the money. Mum put a post on Facebook and then it all started to go crazy. All copies sold out in minutes. So my parents printed 50 more and they sold out. We ended up having a waiting list of over 100 people waiting to buy a copy. Things exploded on Facebook and the word spread across the world. I sold copies to people in the USA, Canada, Ireland, Italy, Switzerland, and Australia. I was featured in the local newspapers, interviewed on the radio, asked to feature in podcasts, and was even contacted by Tim Peake, who bought 2 copies, one to sign and send back to me, and one for him to keep. In the end, I sold over 500. I never expected that I'd sell that many. Things were moving so fast that my dad designed and created a website for me so that people could go to my website and order a book. Mum and Dad struggled to keep up with the orders and having to take 50 to 60 books at a time to the post office. Then the owner of a company called First Light Optics got in touch with Mum and said that they would like to stock my book. They ordered 100 copies to sell on their website. I donated money to my favourite charity, UK Astronomy, and I also gave money to Team Trees to plant some trees. UK Astronomy asked them to join their charity as their junior astronomer. I was asked to take part in their 2021 April Festival and, also in 2021, hosted an online event titled Fun Facts for Kids. I talked about what I love about the universe and all things space. The charity founders, Ross and Frankie, are now my friends, and I help them at some of their events. They even have a huge inflatable planetarium. They'll be coming to Keynote school later in the year. Now that I'm older, I wanted to update my first book with better pictures and more facts, and about other things outside our solar system. I began working on things about space. It took quite a while to get everything typed up, and at times my parents had to help with the typing, but I told them what I wanted to write. I used my iPad and Apple Pencil to redraw the planets, which enabled me to add some more detail. It took me about 8 months to finish, as I could only do it in little bits at a time. I had to research my facts again to make sure it was right. I used NASA, European Space Agency, and Wikipedia websites to make sure my facts were correct. This book took forever, and I found it very hard because there was so much to check. I had so much to read. But because I am the UK Astronomy Junior Astronomer, and I had help fact-checking from a real NASA Solar System ambassador called Janelle. Then my dad needed to design the book for me. This book took about 6 months because Dad had to do it between his other work. This was hard for me because I had to be patient, which I'm not the best at. As my second book was not intended just for friends and family, like my first book was, my dad had to put a lot of work into making it look really professional. He wanted to make sure it was colourful and interesting for anyone who reads it. When Dad had done a draft layout, then came the really boring bit, proofreading. This means that we had to check the book for spelling and grammar errors. My mum and Dad had to read the book at least 50 times. Because each time they read it, they spotted something that needed correcting. Just as we were about to get the book printed, my mum thought it would be a great idea if readers could scan a QR code on each page and have me narrate the page to them. I also thought this was an amazing idea. I thought this was an awesome idea. This is great for children or adults with reading difficulties, as they can follow along as I read the book to them. I had to record myself reading each page. It took hours, but I enjoyed it. I used my mum's MacBook and edited the long pauses out. And Dad edited the recordings a bit more and then put the sound files on the internet, so when you scan the QR code with your phone, it plays the sound file. But some of the audio didn't quite match what was in the book, so the book had to be changed to match the audio. I had to listen to my recordings and show Dad where the words needed to be edited. Then we had to buy an ISBN, International Standard Book Number, for the book. If you sell your books in shops or online stores like Amazon, they sometimes insist that your book has a proper ISBN number. It also makes it easier for libraries to catalogue your book. Finally, the book was ready to print. Mum was worried in case she missed a spelling mistake or anything. But how many should we print? This was tricky as we were publishing the book ourselves. So we had to pay for all the printing costs, which cost thousands of pounds. I was so excited, but there would be more waiting while the book was being printed. Then, Dad brought it to school to surprise me on the perfect day, World Book Day. Since it was printed, I've been contacted by some amazing people, First Light Optics, the Space Store, and MSG Meteorites. Focal Point Optics and the Widescreen Centre are all stocking my book. I've had some messages from other kids telling me they're also autistic and that I've inspired them. The parents have told my mum and dad that I have given their child confidence to follow their own dreams. One child, called Jackson, told me that they didn't like their diagnosis because they thought it was bad. that they have read my book and saw how it can be amazing. I've held rocks from the moon and Mars, as we can see there. The rocks I held are very rare and worth a lot of money. More than there would be if they were gold. I'm so lucky that I was allowed to hold them. I've been invited to see the building of Lunar Communications Array for the ESA, and I've been asked to do a book signing at an astronomy show. I've had interviews live on BBC Breakfast, ITV Angela News, I hope I pronounced that correct, and BBC Radio Northampton Revolution Radio. And I've also been in the local news and done podcasts for UK Astronomy and TGP Nominal. I've been a guest of honour at SEN Conversation and had the opportunity to be here with you today at this amazing event. I would not have been able to have these opportunities if I hadn't have written my books, and I wouldn't have been able to write my books without my superpower. I feel very proud to be here and of what I've achieved. I struggle to do some things that others do easily, but can also do things that others find hard. One thing I'm very proud of though is that I've told UK Astronomy that for every book I sell, I will donate £2 to them. And one of my book stockists will match those donations. As with my first book, Mum put a post out on Facebook and then it all started to go crazy again. I was invited to sell my book at the Practical Astronomy Show, where I sold 44 books and was asked to sign them by the people buying it. Things About Space is currently stocked in 5 bookshops and I've sold nearly 400 books since it was launched on the 1st of March. It makes me so proud that I've been able to write this book, and I'm lucky that it has given me so many opportunities that I wouldn't normally get. Thank you for listening.
Sorry, I'm a bit emotional. He does it every time, he pulls it out of the hat. So, as I said, I'm Aston's mum. Incredibly proud to be so. I just wanted to share some experiences with you, really, as a parent of how Aston's book has impacted us as a family. So, right from an early age, we knew that Aston was special. We knew that he had ADHD and autism. But as I'm sure you all know, that there are many delays and hoops you have to go through to get any sort of diagnosis or help. Because Aston is so articulate, it masks many of the social difficulties that he has, and a lot of experts are saying, well, he can make eye contact, he's not autistic. And we had to fight for every bit of support. Aston writing both of his books has impacted us all in ways we'd never expected. So for instance, when we became parents, when any of us become parents, you don't expect you'd have to learn how to publish a book, become a PR and media guru, be an executive assistant to an 11-year-old, book his appointments at conferences, book signings, media appearances. We've learned how to juggle full-time working, my husband running a business, school, media, website inquiries, and more recently trying to figure out how a child pays income tax. No idea. The best thing for us though is seeing Aston's confidence grow, as he's so proud of what he's been able to achieve. Mums, dads and kids from around the country have been in touch to thank us for showing how autism and ADHD can be a positive thing. They said that often they just see negative stories about it, and it's nice to see a different perspective. Aston talking about his superpower has inspired so many others, and one of the greatest things we've had is families sending us pictures of their children reading Aston's book at bedtime, modelling his drawings out of plasticine and sending us the pictures, sending messages of thanks for helping them to learn about the planets. And as you saw, Aston's donating money to his favourite charity, and he's already donated £708 from the sale of this book and £150 from the sale of his first book. I don't think it's possible for us to be more proud of Aston, but each time he goes in front of a camera or up in front of strangers, he just shines. We're terrified. We just don't know what he's going to say. And he does it without any outward signs of struggling, and that's people miss. He obviously is struggling, but what amazes us more is that he went on BBC Breakfast in front of 3 million people. He wasn't prepped. We didn't have the questions up beforehand. I couldn't brief him, couldn't tell him what to say. He just did it. However, it's not without his challenges, and afterwards Aston is very tired and needs to have time to himself to recover. It's not that we underestimate Aston, but he teaches us something every time he talks about his superpower, and I find that incredible. You put this down. He's taught me that despite his many challenges, hang on mate, and at only 11 years old, he's able to advocate for himself and for other kids. Being able to advocate for yourself and other people at such a young age, I think, is an incredibly powerful thing, as it can empower others to do the same. Despite his challenges, children with autism and ADHD can thrive if you find something they love doing and provide them with the support they need. Aston said himself that he struggles to do things others would find easy, but he can also do things where others may struggle. I suppose the biggest lesson that Aston has taught us as his parents is that challenges can be overcome if you know your strengths and your areas where you need extra support. Watching Aston's confidence grow and seeing the pride he feels about his accomplishments is the greatest thing in the world to watch. Thank you.